Hi, folks. You're with Tassos today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how we measure or define economic and functional logistical efficiency in today's globalized economy. Now, what it appears to me is instead of actually solving a problem, whether it be service delivery or moving goods, manufacturing goods, shipping goods, whatever the case may be, instead of solving problems or raising the level of service, what's happened is that the problem simply gets moved around or dispersed. So I don't think it's a net gain in efficiency at all. In fact, I'd say it's gone into reverse. For example, when you call up, I don't know, Microsoft or something for service, is the service better now than it was 20 years ago? Certainly my experience is it's vastly inferior today. Now, whether it be you're calling up about software support or computer support or IT support or banking services or anything, it doesn't matter. I believe that the standard of service and the quality of service has declined, substantially declined, in my view, at least. Now, I got a sort of an inkling of that today. The car, my car broke down, and it's a not a cheap car. So it broke down, and I've got roadside assist service, which is great. So I think, well, not a problem. That's 24/7 service. So it's 7:30 in the morning. So I'll call up and get the roadside assist. Now, so I call the number, and the person answering, they're there in some call center somewhere or other. And the last time I called, which was probably 5+ years ago, it was a local call center, and the people knew what they were talking about. But those days are clearly gone. So I get a young woman who knows nothing about it. She's got her checklist. That's it. And so nor does she need or attempt to understand, and probably isn't bright enough to understand anyway. She's in an offshore call center, and she's paid to follow and adhere to the checklist. Now, we can talk about the adequacy of the checklist and whether the person who put it together really knew what they were doing, and I argue they probably didn't, but nonetheless. So every utterance that I make has to be repeated to the point where I started talking very slowly, like that, in order to get there. Otherwise I was steady. I just had to repeat everything. So it was a bit of a difficult call. Anyway, get through that, and then it's announced that I need to talk to people in a certain department, and they are in a team development meeting and won't be out until 10:30. So, and they'll call me sometime after that, no guarantees. So I think, well, gee, that's not 24/7. So that's 3 hours from when I called. So I had the name of one of the supervisors. So I said, well, could I talk to them? And they're in another meeting and don't know when they're coming out. So that's it. Well, can you give them send them a message or a text or something? No, it's against our policy. Can't do it. Fuck. All right then. So that was that. Now, no call comes through. So I call back, and again, very hard. You've got to start right from the beginning again, go all through all these pointless bullshit questions. And still no joy. So I had another number for the same thing then, but then they try and sell you a sort of a platinum level of service that means you do actually get 24/7 access. So I had to cough the cash and get that, and difficult call. It was a better call. The guy was clearly a higher quality person on that platinum level, and they said somebody will be out within the hour, and that was pretty much it. Someone came out, but when they arrived, they couldn't speak English or barely speak it. So that was hard work. So we used sign language and pointing and so on, but it was it got done in the end. What can I say? But from the time that I called for this 24/7 alleged service to the time I was back on the road was 5 hours, and I couldn't get away from the phone because they were going to call back. And and if these people call back, you've got to answer really quick. It's like 2 rings and they're off onto the next call or next call they're returning. So you have to be really quick and responsive. You also have to be in an area where you're sure you're going to get good mobile phone coverage and that sort of thing. So this was an example of how the service they purport to offer is not being offered. And if you want the good service, you've got to pay extra for it. Now, when the service did come, it was kind of acceptable, but only because I was there and I could show the guy what to do. If I hadn't been there, or if someone else had been there, my wife or something, then I got serious doubts that it would have worked out as well as it did in the end. But nonetheless, it got done. But that was 5 hours, and it took up that part of my day. I had quite a few things planned for that time that I couldn't do because I couldn't leave the vehicle. They insist you have to be there, that sort of stuff. So I couldn't leave the vehicle, couldn't go out and do the things. So there's a lot of disruption in that. Now the same can be said for other things, simple things like I go to the supermarket, they're running adverts on special. They've got, this brand of breakfast cereal and something else. And so you go in to get it and it's not in stock, and they offer you a rain check. So we'll get a rain, but then you queue at the desk to get a rain check. And half an hour later, you're still standing there waiting to get some service, that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, well, it can't be that hard to get the stock sort of allocated. If you've got that cereal on special, why can't you do that? You book these things months in advance. Now I appreciate that sometimes things go wrong. I get that, but this is a constant feature that when I go to the store to get something they've advertised, and they're spending the big bucks, like the TV and the full page in the media and printing, some pretty hot looking color catalogs, that sort of stuff. And yet they can't manage to get the fucking stuff on the shelf. Sometimes weeks later, it's still not there. And so looking into that and drilling it down, they've got we've got a situation where instead of education, people have certification. They're not actually educated at all. They know nothing, but they have a certificate. So education is given way to certification. I've got a certificate. So now when you then add into that the concept of standardization, and I've spoken to executives about this, they say, look, if we can get a standardized checklist, a way of doing things, whether it be a matrix, no, they don't like the matrix because that gets a little bit complicated, but certainly a standardized checklist, if we can get that, then we can employ dumber and dumber and dumber people so that are cheaper and cheaper. So instead of having a checklist and then having a higher powered employee there, higher intelligence employee, they may decide to make interpretations on the checklist. But we don't want that. We want rigid, total checklist standardization of behavior across all employees. And it's easier if we have someone dumb, because they're more likely to stick to the checklist because they're too stupid to go outside of it. And that's kind of what we want. And again, it's cheaper labour, which opens the door, of course, to third world semi-literate peasants. So this is where I think we've gone. So instead of looking at problems, whether it be log jams or bottlenecks or anything like that within any supply system, be it goods or services, instead of addressing that, instead of solving the problems and dealing with them and taking them on and making sure everything's streamlined and works well, instead of doing that, I wouldn't say necessarily the complete opposite has occurred, but what they're doing instead of solving the problems is they're just moving them around, or we just outsource that to someone else. We'll push that problem back onto the customer. And if we all do it at the same time in that market segment, then they're all going to have to, the customer's just going to have to wear it. It's too bad if they don't like it. So in the checklist standardization and in the certification rather than education, and just going through the motions rather than knowledge, these problems or log jams are never getting solved or aren't getting solved, and nor is anyone really wanting to take responsibility, or the responsibility comes back to, well, let's just rejig the checklist. Hey, problem. Let's just redo the checklist. And people that themselves aren't really qualified to be doing it, they aren't able to work through the business process of things, or the workflow. They're just not of that caliber. And some of the people doing business process analysis, not necessarily on the coding side, but on the actual sheer hard logistics of getting things done. Some of those people are themselves, got an 80 IQ. So these problems are getting moved around. Problems are being pushed back to the customer, but no one's actually dealing with it. And one thing that's intrigued me about, say the grocery stores and supermarkets, is how often it happens. I mean, it happens every week. Every week it happens. Sometimes it happens across one or two products, sometimes across many. And the irony is, or the strange factor is that, given I'm only looking to buy 2 or 3 different products that may be listed in the catalogs, for example, it may be happening with many other products. I don't know, and one day I'll have to go through the catalogue and then look to see. But given I'm only looking at a small sample of products, and say all of them in some weeks are out of stock, and we haven't got our delivery on that. Well, how is that even fucking possible? Now, if it happened one-off or happened every now and again, you go, oh, well, but it's happening every fucking week. And the same goes for trying to get tech support. I find, certainly by my experience, and there's, there are ebbs and flows in this. Sometimes you might get a few weeks where things go smoothly, and otherwise, another few weeks, not so much. But given the drama, today in getting something quite basic done, that is a basic element of the service that this company provides, it took 5 fucking hours, and God knows how many phone calls, no matter how many hours of waiting online, waiting on the phone to get through, to then get someone that can't speak fucking English who answers the phone and has no idea what they're talking about. So I think that situation is getting worse, and I think moving the problem around and dispersing it around the supply chain and so on, or pushing it back on the customer, is the new way of what the globalists would see as economic efficiency. Why the fuck should we pay for service delivery to our customers? They can fuck off. And I think that's really, really how we're going, which again implies this mindset of monopoly, oligopoly, cartel pricing. And if you don't like it, too fucking bad. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.